So the news keeps rolling in for The Last of Us 2. We're still waiting on North American sales. I don't know where those are. I don't know when they're going to come out. I'm really curious to why we don't have those numbers yet. We should have those numbers, so I don't know what's going on with those. Hopefully we'll have North American sales by Sunday. Hopefully, at the latest. But anyway, it's nice to see some outlets talking about the fact that it's going to continue to get worse for this game. 80% drop in its second week, expected to dip further. I think you're going to see in some countries an even bigger decrease in the sales. But, this all depends on how it does in North America. That's the real story on sales, because North America is probably the biggest region for video game sales. So until we know that answer, I don't want to get crazy with speculation. I hope we have those numbers by Sunday at the latest. Neil Druckmann continuing to make rounds. Yesterday, this article doesn't address that. He went on Podcast Beyond. I think it was yesterday or the day before that. If you don't know, Podcast Beyond is an IGN podcast. So Neil Druckmann continuing to give favors to IGN. And why shouldn't he? They were good soldiers in his fight to destroy The Last of Us 2. And they made sure to give him only the most positive coverage, because you can't spell IGN without ignorance. They, of course, didn't report on any DMCA or anything like that. So they were a good little corporation for Neil. Made sure to do his bidding and say whatever he wanted. Whatever he wanted. So still making the rounds. I expect him to continue making the rounds as he desperately tries to sell this game to whoever will listen. And if North American sales are bad, like I think they're going to be, I expect Sony and Naughty Dog to go into full panic mode. And that will be a very, very interesting story. Next up, still simping for Abby, because Abby's the greatest protagonist ever created in a video game. VG 24/7. Abby's redemption arc is in The Last of Us Part 2 is the only one that matters. That's right. Didn't you know? Abby is the greatest character ever created in a video game, if you read games media. She is the bestest ever. And if you don't like her, you are, of course, an istophobe, and you don't like the ladies. You don't like them because you don't like Abby, which I think is pretty hilarious. I'm not going to spend too much time on this article. The whole reason that I'm even making another video on this game is because of this article from GQ. The Last of Us Part 2's man-baby backlash is a stain on fan culture. The culture wars have come for The Last of Us Part 2 in moronic fashion. It's Star Wars, The Last Jedi all over again. Now, what attracted me to this article was, of course, the man-baby backlash. Because, of course, they're going to call it man-baby backlash. You're not allowed to dislike something that the majority of critics love. And that's just kind of unfortunately the thing. This is coming from GQ, which is the male version of Cosmopolitan, the female fashion magazine. This is pretty much the male version of that. I find it funny that they're pushing this game so hard. But this is a pretty comical article. We're going to go over it a little bit because there's some really stupid stuff in here. And, of course, you're istophobes for not liking this game, and your basement lurkers and all kinds of crazy stuff. So let's get into the thick of this. So, of course, it starts off pretty nasty. Last of Us Part 2 was always going to be divisive. It was written to evoke anger and frustration and upset and debate. In a recent interview with the game's director, Neil Druckmann, he told us that he wanted to dismantle a game that so many gamers in the world hold sacred. Now, this is funny, this whole opening paragraph right here. Okay, the game was always going to be divisive. It was written to make people angry and frustrated and upset and spark debate. And Druckmann admits that he wanted to dismantle a game that people loved. So why are these companies so mad that people are going and, leaving bad reviews and really having a lot of backlash to this game? You're admitting right at the start of this article, that the game was meant to frustrate people and make them angry. But you're mad that people are angry. I mean, the whole idea behind this game, like, we don't use the word fun when it talks about this game. That's a real quote from Druckmann. So what did you expect was going to happen? That everyone was just going to love this game? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's really stupid to open this article up this way. So you're admitting that people are going to be frustrated and mad, and then you call them basement lurkers in the next paragraph. Not even kidding. Listen to this. While there have been plenty of well-articulated critiques of the game's ultra-violent revenge quest, one particular fan constituency, primarily internet man-babies and basement lurkers, has reacted especially badly. In fact, their response has been more aggressive and dramatic than ever before. You know how it's aggressive and dramatic? Because they're leaving bad reviews on Metacritic. Oh no, a company is getting critiqued, and they don't like that. I just don't get it. And I'll say it again, and I've said it before. These websites, these outlets are supposed to be the voice of the people. They're supposed to be for the people, not for the company. And that's how they all are now. All games media, in fact, all of access media to a lot of points is all about the company now. They don't really see you at all, but they're supposed to be for you, and they need you to survive. They need you to click their website. They need you to go to their website so that they can get ad revenue and all that stuff. The company doesn't give them, well, they might give them a little kickback, a little taste, but it's not enough to run their business. To run their business, they absolutely need you. They need you to go check out their stuff. And without you, they will fail. And you're seeing a lot. A lot of these websites have been falling, particularly during the past couple of months. A lot of these access media websites have been going out of business. So it's just funny to me. You think that they wouldn't want to, keep you guys on their side, but instead they side with Neil Druckmann instead of you. It's crazy to me. They call you a basement dweller, or no, a basement lurker, and all this weird stuff. I don't. It always blows my mind. And then this is really crazy. So now they don't like it when fans get listened to, and they bring up Mass Effect 3, which I found absolutely hilarious because Mass Effect 3, like The Last of Us Part 2, absolutely deserved criticism. Those endings were trash for that game. Ending. Well, let me read this article. Let me read this paragraph, and then we'll get into it. This is, of course, not the first backlash against a video game. In 2012, Mass Effect 3, the conclusion to a trilogy of sci-fi epics, incited a petition to get its ending changed by the developers who actually caved and did. No Man's Sky was such a disappointment to many that its lead designer, Sean Murray, became the target of an online hate campaign. It's not just exclusive to video games either, although that's usually where this kind of unreserved, irrational fury is most prevalent. You need to only look at Star Wars The Last Jedi to see how toxic fandom can become when it weaponizes itself to protect the thing it purports to own. So, a couple of things here. Last Jedi, very divisive for a lot of the same reasons of The Last of Us Part 2 for what they did to characters people loved. There's a lot of different ways you could have handled this game. It all comes they did Abby and Joel. Like, they could have made this game work so much better. Maybe you play more as Abby before you take out Joel, stuff like that, so that you learn a little bit better, but a little bit more about her. But this game was basically a college paper that needed a lot of revisions. But The Last Jedi, I mean, I don't even need to really get into The Last Jedi very much. I've made tons of videos on The Last Jedi, like many other channels. That movie split the Star Wars fandom down the middle, and in a lot of ways destroyed Star Wars and put Star Wars on a downward trajectory of unprofitability. Then you have Mass Effect 3. I don't even know why they're talking about this. I'd say the criticism for Mass Effect 3 is pretty legit, considering, you know, we had so many promises that all your decisions were going to matter, and it's gonna really make a difference in the ending. And at the end of the day, none of that mattered. Even the changed ending wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. But it's just the fact here that people mobilizing and getting things changed, that itself is problematic. And you should have listened to Access Media. You should have listened to GQ. You should have listened to IGN. They said the ending was just fine. How dare you disagree with the voice of the people? And then we have No Man's Sky, a game that lied over and over again. They bring out, you know, the Sean Murray lied tons of times about that game, said that game was going to be this and that. It's going to have this feature, that feature. The game came out, it had nothing. Had nothing that it was promised. Barely anything. So people were like, why'd you lie to me, bro? And we're like, hey, can you please give us the things we wanted? And he started to work on it. He's been updating that game. That game has gotten a lot of updates, and it's actually a much better game now. But it's just the fact that you're supposed to just take product, consume it, love it, based on the voice of Access Media. Now, if Access Media had hated No Man's Sky, then it would have been okay for you to hate it as well. But because a lot of them loved it and praised it, you're expected to love and praise it. Because remember, they are the voice of the people. They are the voice of the people. Not so much anymore. And they hate that too. That's why they hate you, even though they need you desperately to keep going. It's really funny. It's really funny. So we go to the next one. The most direct expression of that ire is usually in the form of review bombing. This charming practice entails a horde of sweaty incels heading to Metacritic or any other user-based outlet, such as Steam, to have their voices heard, in quotations, in what can only be described as the ultimate Karen move. It's the I want to speak to the manager of the video game world, in which gamers who more often than not have decided that one facet of a game irks them and therefore the entire product is worthless, head to a review site and collectively review the game with the lowest score possible. It's a protest, a boycott, a total rejection of everything the game stands for. So now you're a Karen. Now you want to speak to the manager and all this stuff because you want your voice to be heard. I think that that's a very valid thing for people to do. Now, I don't condone the review bombing. I think that you should have to play the game in some capacity to review it. But there's no way to really check that without, all kinds of crazy stuff. You can't stop people from review bombing. I don't think, because I do think if you want to play the game, you should be able to go and look at valid user scores. But I also don't think that you should have to verify a purchase before you're allowed to review it. It's a good faith system that, unfortunately, I don't know what the answer to fixing that is. However, I think calling people that are very upset over something a bunch of Karens that want to speak to the manager, pretty nasty. All right. And it's going against who these people are supposed to be representing. People are angry and upset. What other way do they have to voice their opinion, I guess? That's the way you look at it. When they go to Twitter, but this is what people are doing. This is what they felt they needed to do. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm trying to rationalize here with why people would do that. And that's why people are upset. They're upset because of how the game is handled and the way that they've been disrespected. So they go and they leave a review. It is what it is, but you're not allowed to do that. And that's really where this article is showing its anger. It's all about the review, because at the end of the day, all these outlets want to take away your ability to use Metacritic. The only reviews that matter are the Access Media reviews. They want to be the only voice. They want to be, what you look to for a review. They don't like user scores, because user scores represent your voice. It really overrides what they have to say. Because why do I care what critics have to say when I can see what the people have to say? And they don't like that. They don't like that. So we get 3 paragraphs here now, all calling you istophobes now. I'm not even going to go through this. I'll just highlight it. Paragraph here says that you're istophobic and you don't like women. This right here is all about Abby and how you don't like her because she looks like she lives in the gym. And then we go right back to review bombs again, because review bombs are terrible. How could it be that so many people like it when it got perfect scores from the likes of The Guardian, Washington Post, IGN, and Game Informer? I mean, a bunch of people that live in California loved the game. How is it that you hate it? I don't understand it. I don't get it. Then they go on to talk about Neil Druckmann and how he mocks people with this tweet right here. So, because he mockingly talked about the user scores. Hail Neil Druckmann for hating on fans. Of course, that's loved behavior, because fans are trash in their minds. Fans are trash, so it's good that Neil Druckmann mocked you, you basement dwellers. And then it goes on to talk about how people hate the game because it's progressive and pandering. And they talk about how because the game's pandering, it hurt the quality. And I would say, it did hurt the quality of the game. It did. Like that does most of the time. So that's really it. It's nothing but insulting you and calling you toxic and an istophobe and a whammon hater and all this stuff. It's disgusting. And then, of course, they end it talking about The Last Jedi again. So, how do you like that? Praising Neil Druckmann for attacking fans, calling you basement lurking Karens, and all kinds of stuff. This is Access Media. These are the voices of the people for gaming. Come on. So, anyway, that's pretty much it. I don't expect this to stop anytime soon, and I'm eagerly awaiting those sales numbers for North America. Anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me your comments. Let me know what you think about all of this. Also, if you would, throw a like up, share the video, make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out.